Chairman, PACE is designed to look backwards to chase money that has already been paid. What I'd like to know, General Greenblatt, is during the pandemic, there was a massive amount of fraudulent spending, widely referred to as the greatest theft of taxpayer money in history. So has the PACE data center been effective in recovering any of that?
Yes, sir. I think many of those investigations related to the pandemic are certainly ongoing right now and are already delivering returns. The key, though, is what you said at the outset, the initial part of your question there, which is the prevention piece. And that's where we really are pushing for a data hub inside SIGI that will allow us to be affirmatively preventing some of those bad dollars from going out the door.
That was actually my follow-up, was is this forward-looking? And one of the things I've spent a ton of time working with the GAO on improper payments and things like that, and I think we're far better off if we're in a preventive mode than we are in trying to recover what's gone out. But I just wonder if we've done all these audits on federal agencies. We've identified a number of problems. I get the GAO reports, and it tells me what % of the recommendations have been implemented, and sometimes it's none of them. Have you experienced the same issues with audits done by the Inspector Generals that never really get acted on, the recommendations never get implemented?
I think some agencies are better than others. I think some of the relationships between the IGs are better than others. And so I think it's a bit of a hodgepodge. Some of them are pretty good about implementing, but some of them are absolutely terrible about it. And so I think the key is two things. One is transparency, and so what we are doing at SIGI is trying to make our open recommendations even more prominent on oversight.gov, which is our primary outward-facing website, so that you all can see them. And then the other part of that, part two of that, is frankly pressure from Congress. If you all see open recommendations that we've identified as significant, come talk to us and we can share with you what are the hot button items that we think the agency should be implementing. And then I think you're going to see product move, if you will.
That's part of the challenge for us, is that previous Congress has passed legislation to deal with improper payments, Improper Payments Reduction Act, and then there was a second version of that, but there was never any enforcement in it. And a number of us, including the Comptroller General, and I have talked about this, is how do you incentivize agencies to actually implement the changes that need to be made? And I would really be interested, and I think the committee would be very interested in hearing from SIGI about this, on how we can actually get some enforcement, for lack of a better word, but incentives, whatever it takes, to reduce these improper payments and prevent them in the future. Would you be able to provide some recommendations?
Absolutely, sir. And the impact of congressional attention cannot be overstated. So if I could just share a quick story for you. In my office at the Department of the Interior, we had an audit that revealed that one of the components within Interior wasn't checking some of their contractors against the suspension and debarment list, right, which is where folks have identified problematic contractors and basically saying don't give contracts or grants to these folks. They weren't comparing those contractors against those lists. We made recommendations, and they said that some of those recommendations would take 2 years to implement. We engaged with Congress. Congress notified that they were going to have a hearing on that topic, and within 2 weeks, they implemented those very recommendations. So it went from 2 years to 2 weeks just on the letter from Congress. So I would recommend that there is a synergy here between our recommendations and congressional oversight that go well together and would address the very issues that you're talking about, sir.
Have you looked at the Treasury's do not pay system and determined how effective that is in preventing payments?
That would be the Treasury OIG that would do that. So I haven't done that, and frankly, I'd have to defer to them. I'd have to ask them, frankly.
But with this pay system, would you be able to integrate that with other databases like the do not pay system?
That would be the goal, I think, is that we would be able to match up these data sets and identify problematic recipients. For example, the PACE, which you identified, the Pandemic Analytics Center of Excellence. If they had been in existence in 2020 and they had matched up the data that we have now, they could have identified more than 70,000 bad Social Security numbers. So this is PPP loans going out the door with bad Social Security numbers or questionable Social Security numbers that amounted to more than $5 billion that we could have flagged for the SBA and said, wait, pump the brakes on those payments. Let's do another review of those.
See, that raises one of the concerns that I think we have on the committee is the amount of access that the inspector generals have to these other databases, the interoperability of our systems to catch things like that. And I'm hoping that's where you're heading with this, is that we have that interoperability, that we have the ability for the inspectors generals to have access to other existing databases like the Do Not Pay system, some of these other things, so that we avoid making these payments.
Yes, sir. That's exactly the vision. Just like we showed you in that demonstration, a few days ago, we would love to bring all that together and make that very easily accessible to the IGs so that they could harvest that data and use it not just in the pay and chase, which you referenced a moment ago, but in the affirmative prevention of bad dollars going out the door. So we're in the prevention business, and so that's very much what we're interested in.
Well, I'm running over. The last thing that I would ask you is that I think all of us on the committee would be interested in any statutory authority changes that you think are necessary for that, and if you've got some ideas on that, we would like to hear them. On that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Thank you very much. We now go to the ranking member, Mr. Mfume.